100 years ago, in 1856, Her Majesty Queen Victoria granted a charter of incorporation to the 19,000 townspeople of Rochdale, and the pattern of local government as we know it was born. This year, 1956, we of the present generation have been celebrating the completion of 100 years of civic enterprise and development, which have brought the county borough of Rochdale to its present importance. A happy new year was the message of bells welcoming 1956 and the beginning of Rochdale's centenary year. The white carpet of snow gave the gardens in our town centre a magical appearance. But Rochdale was no sleepy fairyland, as up and down the town groups of people began to prepare for the celebrations to come. The nerve centre of the organisation was our magnificent town hall. Her Majesty the Queen congratulated the Rochdale Observer, which celebrated its own centenary in February, with a special supplement. In this paper, week by week, Rochdalians everywhere have read of the town's development. This little shop was the beginning of the modern cooperative movement. The organization now boasts large stores throughout the world. John Bright, a Rochdalian and a Member of Parliament, was at the centre of vigorous political activity in the 19th century. His family were important in the cotton trade. Changes in the town centre over the years were described in a BBC Down Your Way programme later in the year.
Continental building. How is it that you managed to get these very large open spaces round here?
Originally, the town hall was built on a space then occupied by a farm. This was developed by the then commissioners of the town, with the result that we have probably one of the most magnificent town halls in the north of England.
Where does the river run?
The river runs right through the center of the town.
But I've never seen it.
No, because it is covered. Not because we're ashamed of it exactly, but because its covering has meant wide boulevards where we had a river occupying a considerable amount of space in the center of the town.
The speaker was Alderman C.H. Brining, OBE, a freeman of the borough who has had a longer experience of civic affairs than any other living Rochdalian. Rochdale Retrospect, written by Miss Reba Taylor, recorded some of the older history of the town as far back as the Doomsday Book. The Rochdale and District Cine Society began a film of the old halls of Rochdale. Some of the early incidents in the film were taken at Pike House, Littleborough, where our juvenile star began a study of local history. Spring arrived with the lambing season. Rochdale still has many farms. The Parks Department made a special effort to announce the centenary with a formal display near the esplanade. In the parks was a host of golden daffodils, and in the greenhouses at Failinge, a vast variety of more exotic flowers. Many thousands of plants are reared for bedding out later in the year. No special arrangements were needed for the Whitsuntide celebrations, which have become such an established tradition. On Whit Sunday, some of the outlying church congregations walked in procession round their parishes. At Suddin, St Aidan's made a brave show and attracted many spectators to their route along Manchester Road. The big crowds waited until Whit Friday, when, in glorious sunshine, 2 outdoor services for Anglicans and Roman Catholics were held on the Town Hall Square. First on the square came St. Mary's, who assembled in front of the Packer Spout Gardens. They were closely followed by the Church of the Good Shepherd. The gay costumes of the Glen Donald Pipe Band made a bright contrast to the dresses of the Rose Queens and their retinues in white and pastel shades. The parish church of St. Chad had 8-year-old Anne Hanson as Rose Queen. Several processions were led by brass or silver bands. St. Edmunds, the last to arrive, were led by 15-year-old Valerie Webster, with 6 train-bearers and 4 heralds. The singing at the service, with a congregation of some 2,000 people, was led by Mr. W.A. Nutter, choirmaster at the parish church. After the service and a pause for photographs, the 8 processions wended their separate ways to their mother churches. The celebrations handbook was published in May before the start of the series of official events. On June the 1st, the charter celebrations began with the Rochdale Past and Present exhibition in the Drill Hall. The Mayor, Councillor Percival Barker, JP, presided at the opening, which was attended by representatives of all sections of life in Rochdale. The Mayor was accompanied by the Mayoress, Mrs. Geoffrey Barker, and Alderman Lyon Taylor, the Chairman of the Centenary Celebrations Subcommittee. The opening ceremony was performed by the Parliamentary Secretary to the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food, Mr. Harmer Nittles MP. Mr. Nittles suggested that the exhibition could have an effect on the future of the town by persuading people to play their part in local government. At the rear of the hall was a street of shops typical of the middle of the 19th century. There was a saddler's, a toy shop, an ironmonger's, a draper's, and an inn, even a fire station and a replica of a horse and cab. Adjacent to the street was a series of interior tableaux, including a Victorian drawing room at tea time. A hand-loom weaver's cottage, typical of the same period, provided a striking contrast. On the transport department's stand was a diesel engine, a triumph of modern engineering. Many of these are used in our local buses. On the main stand, the Charter of Incorporation was displayed next to the gold mace, the symbol of civic authority, bearing at its head miniatures of King Edward VII and Queen Alexandra. This mace is laid on the table before the Mayor when he presides over meetings of the Town Council, and it also precedes him on all civic occasions. On Sunday the 3rd of June, the mace was carried in procession to the mayoral service at Bailey Street Methodist Church. Tweedale's and Smalley's wax band led the way, followed by a contingent of the borough police. The Mayor, The Deputy Mayor, Alderman Dennis Clegg, Mr. Wentworth Schofield MP, and the Mayor's chaplain preceded members of the Town Council and contingents of many voluntary organisations. The Mayoress and her party travelled by car and arrived at the church before the main procession. In September, there was a similar procession to a civic service in the parish church. After each service, the Mayor took a salute at a march past the Senator, paying tribute to the striking quality of the members of these voluntary groups who, in their many different ways, enliven the community spirit in our town and quicken its activity. The Boy Scouts conducted the flag ceremony, beginning a festival of youth at Springfield Park. The mayoral party inspected the youth section of the Rochdale Borough Silver Band, who provided music for the occasion. The girls' clubs gave a mass demonstration of country dancing. Meanwhile, the Model Aeroplane Society prepared a demonstration of some of their models. The Girl Guides staged a demonstration of world guiding, and after the display, all the competitors took part in yet another march past. Among others on the saluting base was Alderman C. Crowder JP, a freeman of the borough and an important supporter of youth work in the town. The highlights came when the mayor, accompanied by the mayoress and Councillor Cyril Smith, took tea in the guides' camp. And afterwards saw an interesting demonstration of camp equipment at the Boy Scouts' quarters. Later, the mayor enjoyed an alfresco meal at the barbecue prepared by the Scouts. At the education exhibition, the work of our schools was displayed on various interesting stands. There were many examples of handicraft by boys and girls. Models were used to illustrate modern teaching methods. From time to time, demonstrations were given, and here a budding engineer is operating a lathe. This sampler is a splendid example of needlecraft with a contemporary motif showing the town hall, the parish church, and the borough coat of arms. A trades procession and carnival was held for the first time for many years. It was led by a float bearing the carnival queen, Miss Sheila Gaunt, and her attendant, Mrs. Pamela Abbott. It was made up of humorously attired characters and troops of girl dancers. Will's Tobacco had a lavish turnout in the form of a fairground steam engine and caravan. There were jazz bands, brass bands, and more dancers. In this procession, the church rose queens and their retinues travelled in style on decorated floats. The Rochdale Round Table had a special collection vehicle to encourage the public to try a shot at the target. A large sum of money was raised for charity. Turner Brothers float had a spaceman in a fireproof asbestos suit. Dunlop Cotton Mills had a bevy of pretty girls in sports clothes. The St. John Ambulance Brigade staged a casualty treatment demonstration. The brigade also provided a happy band of young collectors. The Industrial and Trades exhibition attracted many visitors of all ages. One small boy was greatly impressed by a model of the town centre on the road safety stand. So much so that when bigger boys got in the way, his mother had to come to the rescue with a lift. One of Rochdale's newer flourishing branches of the engineering trade, spring making, was represented on this stand. On another, the products of one of our oldest cotton firms were shown to the public. Nearby, small boys crowded round a demonstration of the way in which cotton is converted into useful garments. Washing machines were competently operated, and the latest pattern of ironing machines was also displayed. One of our cameramen followed the ladies into a fashion display to film the textiles shown there. Small boys of all ages were entertained by British Railways at an exhibition in number 4 Bay at Rochdale Station during October. A modern 460 steam locomotive was particularly fascinating since everyone was allowed to operate the controls in the cab. Copper Knob, an old locomotive from the Furnish Railway, now normally kept at Barrow Station, was there to provide the centenary atmosphere, and a Coco electric locomotive from Manchester to Sheffield line represented the very latest in locomotive power. One of the official events was a week of variety at the Hippodrome.
Now, what's brought you out of bed, eh? I know, well, there's nothing going on for you here, you know. He's been poorly. He's had a right cold, you know, haven't you? Oh, dear, oh, dear, dear. No, you know, you should have stopped in bed, you know. Oh, dear, dear, dear. Well, I know I was going to rub your chest in bed, but you wouldn't let me. What? You're ticklish. I know you are. Well, now, Lucy, let me do it now.
Norman Evans, the well-known Rochdale comedian, was a star performer with his toy panda. Miss Gracie Fields, the best-known Rochdalian of all, provided a climax on the Saturday evening. As a token of the regard in which she is held by Rochdalians everywhere, the Mayoress presented to her a bouquet of flowers. The Mayor gave her a copy of Rochdale Retrospect as a lasting memento of Rochdale's memorable centenary year.